Welcome into our first game preview. We're going to start in the South region here. We're going to just run through every game in the first round, all 32 games, giving you guys kind of a 5-minute game-by-game preview of what we expect, where you might see an edge in your bracket pick maybe. And we're going to start right here with the number one overall seed, Auburn. We don't know exactly who they're getting yet, but they're getting the winner of Alabama State, the winner in the SWAC conference, and then St. Francis, PA, who won the NEC surprisingly over Central Connecticut State. Initial thoughts here, Cody?
Not a ton, just because it's obviously we don't know who we're getting, but at the same time, neither one of these teams, they're the worst two rated teams in according to Torvik in the tournament. At what I think they're rated 274 for Alabama State and 301st for St. Francis. So it's going to be really hard for any of the 16 seeds to really play up against the ones, and I think especially here with the athleticism advantage that Auburn's going to provide. Obviously, that starts with Janai Broom and Dylan Cardwell, but that goes all the way out to the perimeter guys like, Denver Jones, Chad Baker-Mazara, if he, doesn't get ejected in the first 2 minutes of the game, even Miles Kelly. Like, they just have a ton of freak athletes, and those are always those type of one seeds that are most likely going to be upset proof. I'm not going to sit here and say like this is a guarantee for a win, because obviously anything can happen. We've seen an NEC team win a game in this tournament over a one seed in Fairleigh Dickinson when they beat Purdue. Obviously, I think they were built to, kind of be a giant slayer, and they were much higher rated than this NEC team that we're getting in St. Francis. And St. Francis doesn't really turn anybody over. Fairleigh Dickinson was elite at turning teams over. They were really good in the turnover margin, like a top 25 nationally ranked turnover defense, but we're not really getting that here. And, like other one seeds to kind of compare, like the two that have lost, Purdue and Virginia, to UMBC, those teams weren't overwhelming athletically. And, they relied on their shot making more. And they were vulnerable in certain areas, like obviously Purdue in the turnover margin, and Virginia, they were susceptible to losing. Like, their defense was susceptible to losing over the top, and they played a super slow paced style, which, less possessions leads to, potentially more outcomes. So in this situation, I think Auburn, they play a little bit too fast. They can get in transition whenever they want to, and they can get all over the glass and just overwhelm either one of these teams athletically. So I don't really see much to, really discuss here. I think Auburn's just going to outclass either team they play.
Yeah, and the key, right, in these 16-1 games, or really at any level, right, whether it's, high school all the way through, college. I won't go to the NBA, but high school or college, right? I mean, if you're the lower rated seed, if you're an 8 seed against the 1 or a 16 against the 1, right, you don't really necessarily have anything to lose. You're not expected to win. Most people are expecting you to get it blown out, right? And the longer the top seed lets you hang around, the more belief you get that it's actually possible, right? So I think in both those games that you're talking about, Virginia and UMBC, and the Purdue FDU game, right? And Virginia actually did it a little bit the next year too against Gardner-Webb in the first round. They were down at halftime, but they let those teams hang around, right? And when that happens, the teams start believing a little bit more. And what does the number one seed do? They start pressing a little bit. They get tight because they're like, man, we're not supposed to be only up 2 against this bad of a team. So I don't really expect that to be an issue in this one. I think that, like you said, athletically, Auburn's just going to dominate them, get all over the glass. So if they're not shooting well from the outside, I still think like Cardwell, Baker-Mazara, Broom inside, you're going to be able to get on the glass and finish things up. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this game or the Florida and Norfolk State game too. I think these are two games to look at as like the biggest blowout of the tournament. I think both these games have high potential to be 35, 40, 45-point wins. I think these teams are just that bad.
Yeah, and like for Auburn's offense, there's no weaknesses. They shoot it at an elite clip, they take care of the ball at an elite rate, and they get all over the offensive glass. So there's really no area that either St. Francis or Alabama State can expose them, which I think leads to them to cruise to a 25-point, 30-point victory. So unless they could keep it tight and they start pressing, and it ends up being 10-15, I don't think there's a real world where they lose this game.
Yeah, St. Francis did do that to Central Connecticut State in the conference championship. I watched kind of the last 10 minutes or so, and St. Francis, they play at home sites, and so that game was at Central Connecticut, and they kept the possession count low. You could tell Central Connecticut was pressing a little bit because the game was tight. They were losing at home to a lesser team, and ultimately, St. Francis ended up pulling it out. But like I said, like you said, not going to be a problem here. Not really much else to say. I think Auburn gets the job done with ease.
For sure. Yeah. Not much else to say. I think, they're in a really good spot to win by margin here.
Yeah. So look for Auburn to pick up a big win, and look forward to the winner of Louisville and Creighton.